W.
We want a show. We want a show.
Who, what, when, where, way, why, which.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming to the Beat Museum.
Hi, Charlie.
This is and his new bud. There's a Dan Wright poem. Didn't they used to? Anything that happened 3 months ago can be forgotten. Anything that happened 7 years ago can happen again. The ref will get knocked out once again. The same friend will turn their back on the same hero, with the hero just as shocked as they were the first time around. A psychotic dentist can become the devil's favorite demon. A people's champion can become a crazed stalker. And a millionaire playboy can become a gladiator named Spartacus, all in the name of getting over. Whenever you can put butts in the seats. And since everyone on screen has the memory of a fish, they expect the same from the audience. To varying results. Dan. We need to buy that look here. This new book, the one we're celebrating here. My name's Charlie. I'm going to do a few poems. I wasn't going to be able to make it tonight, but then I work at the airport. You can tell by the fancy gear that I wear. I'm a high-vis motherfucker. But so I work at the airport, but then last night I got suspended from the airport. And so I had to go back to the airport and get my back today. They actually had all these people surrounding me telling me how terrible I was for cutting through a doorway when I was actually qualified to go through that doorway. It's just they had never given me the little seal, and then they apologized for taking my ID even though they said it wasn't my fault. And lost a day of work. So, bureaucracy, awesome. I'm like standing there, there are like 9 people standing around me with the night manager and the others 8 people, all standing around there, and I'm like, wow, I'm getting paid the least here, and they're all just cheesing on our dime. So I'm a little left as well.
Yeah.
Hitler used to scream for space. Space, space. Germans need space. Space, space. Fill up the place with Germans. I sat on a plane in the bitch seat between an elderly man and his wife. He fell asleep on my right shoulder and she on the armrest. And if we were over Nevada, that would be one thing. But we were over New Jersey, which is kind of far from California. So I adjusted my headphones and dreamed of space. Space. Hitler loved space. Space for Germans. Space for a master race. They had a race over space. But it was a different definition. And they sent a dog in a can to die. And Laika, the dog, became a hero of the Soviet Union. Bark, bark. But that can must have been small. So the odds are the first dog in space had none. Not like Hitler. Hitler had space. Hitler spread out into his space. Till the bunker, I guess. And I guess being trapped underground wasn't a bad way for him to go, because it was a bad way to go. And if anyone deserved to go badly, well, Hitler surely did. But Laika died in a can, and her remains came down into the atmosphere. Hitler got off much easier than the hero of the Soviet Union. And I guess you could say, in a backwards way, that Hitler enabled more and created more heroes of the Soviet Union than anyone. I think it might be better if there were a blender for people like Hitler. A karma blender. So that when a Hitler came along, and they do, we could put them in there. Because being caught in a blender might be the worst way to go. They had an internet animation of a frog in a blender. And the viewer could adjust the power of the appliance. I've never eaten frog. And I've never put one in a blender, and never mean to. It's not that I care all that much about frogs. I couldn't carry the way. But a karma blender for Hitler 2.0. Yeah, I could do that. We could put George and Osama in there and tell them David holding hands, and I would press the puree button of justice. Or not. I don't think I'm calibrated to dispense justice. For Hitlers or frogs or heroes of the Soviet Union. I doubt they gave Leica a window, but I can see her now, into space from a can, following Hitler into an afterlife over 12 years later, which to dogs is almost 100. And if there is an afterlife, and if justice is to be found there, neither of which proposition I fully buy, Leica should be there. And she should have an enameled medal with a pretty red star on it, and a big grizzly bone in her mouth. And if it's still attached to Hitler, that's okay. But if anything, there should be space. Warm, friendly dog space.
No, German.
With a cold brook, and a high sun, and green grass, and little furry things that run really fast. And we talked on the phone about space. And I said that I really like that we could preserve our space. But another part of me didn't say, you can come around and boss me all you want. Because I have a whole lot of space. Maybe not in my home, but I do. And I may not have much time, but time within space is relative. And with less space, maybe time will roll a little faster. Because now the clocks carom off the boundaries, bouncing in slow motion, and somewhere down my block, a dog cries, staring at the door. Once a chicken screamed about a plummeting sky, and a wannabe French guy wrote about a sheltering one. So if the sheltering sky falls, are we safe under its cover? Sometime early last week, one planet hit another, and out popped a moon, and soon that moon circled the mass below, pulling it into an egg with gravity. Hell away, pre-chicken. Time is relative, so any time is all time, and no time at all. If a meteor is falling to ground, and you're a dinosaur, as am I, when is my time up, and when did it start? A sperm meets an egg, and the egg divides, and then it divides again. And Humpty Dumpty becomes an undifferentiated ball of cells that collapses on itself and makes us. And we sit on a wall looking up, waiting for a sky to fall. Under the earth, I can hear it breaking, breaking. I put my ear to it and hear it cracking. I live in a fault line, and I swear it's not my fault. But if everything's breaking and everything's falling apart, who's got some glue? And if I'm breaking in two, will a roll of duct tape do? Or is everything as useless as all the king's horses and all the king's men? When I was a child, I saw a woman fall off a balcony, and I didn't see any of the king's people or animals come to help. If I hold the walls with both hands, they'll both stay up. If I use both my hands, they won't come down. If I warn you about the sky, would you listen or think, chicken? Exactly. Humpty Dumpty had his wall and searched all the sky, but the danger wasn't there, and all his political pull failed him like government health care, and he never became a Humpty Chicken, screaming about an end, not knowing the end of his world was soup if he was not yet omelet. Yesterday, a meteor hit the earth and killed a dinosaur and maybe a few more, leveling the earth, charring it like the end of a war. And some people think it happened differently, but something did it. Or God put bones in the ground to confound us. I once was lost, but now I'm confounded. But I do know that robin's eggs like violets are blue, and a hummingbird lays eggs somewhat smaller than an emu lays eggs, and pickled eggs live in jars behind bars, and some eggs find their end at the business end of a vacuum cleaner. And I'm not scared of this. I'm a chicken. I look up, and I have bigger things to worry about. And I'm a dinosaur, because I'm not fast enough to escape the verdict of the sheltering sky.
Wow.
Woo!
in the wind. Listen as I pass, dislodging your umbrella, just ruining your hat. What is wind really? Is it atmosphere? Speed? Is it air pressure? I spent an afternoon watching dudes with board sales and skateboards on a now disappeared parking lot in Presidio. They either weren't that good at what they were doing, or were inventing the sport, or both, probably both. They were at distance, so I imagined they were ants trying to learn to fly. But then I remembered, there were flying ants. And I'm not sure if flying ants were really ants, or if they were different bugs that were just called that. Either way, the ants trying to fly were really just skateboarders with board sails. And neither nor the skateboarders seemed to be getting anywhere. I never wrote down who was the first person to decide that wind could move boats, could move mills. It occurred to people before it occurred to people to write everything down. Why do we write everything down? I want to live on the wind. It's such a shame that jellyfish never learned to fly. I guess they wouldn't be jellyfish. I guess it would be jelly birds. Or more appropriately, jelly balloons. Living balloons, popping and refilling due to a branch of evolution that never happened. Floating jellyfish balloon birds who live on pollen, and all the plants are much taller. Their flowers reach into a sky designed to deposit their seeds on the jelly blimp birds that I guess gird the earth, because everything grows into everything else. Whales dissolve on the ocean floor into teeming metropolises of things that eat dead things. Although in this context, it's just dead thing. And I wonder if I'm honored to be part of this living stream that has proven to be so genetically clever, yet not clever enough to make jellyfish fly. Of course, dinosaurs learned to fly. Which, if you were a gambler millions of years ago, you might not have taken that bet. We are drops in that ocean of life, running through a river of time. I can catch the wind and fly away from that fate, sailing like a jelly blimp bird should, away from the fates of people. But is it better to adhere to the fate of man, that ignoble thing that invented nobility? People flew much later than dinosaurs, in horrid contraptions that somehow get across a continent from a morning into an evening. Why do we write everything down? What does that serve, if it serves anything? And what do we serve? Ourselves or each other? Do we serve life itself or humanity? Do we serve a tennis ball to have fate smack it back at us? What is the wind if not, to be sure, in a possibly imprecise metaphor? And do I want to be on the wind because I want to disappear? Or do I want to be in the wind so I can knock off your hat and then disappear? Do I ask too many questions? Jellyfish ask a question, and neither do ants. But neither of them learned how to fly. I think, to be honest though, neither did I. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I hope it's okay if Ryan joins me.
Yeah.
She is, alright, let's see. Adjust this a little bit. I'm not quite Charlie's size. So, let's see. Alright, that microphone's miking.
Yeah, babe.
Alright, Ryan, you ready? Yeah. Alright. I'm gonna start with some new shit.
New shit.
This piece is called Intermission. I'm trying to take more photos. Be less discreet. Be more a secret when privacy is obsolete. Obstinacy is a form of biomimicry, estranged from land, I'm a built environment girly, in a rusting silo, demure and mindful. Hello, cello. Take me into the moment. Let it titrate, don't pick, come sit quiet and listen to the whistle and the flute. Water divided into teacups. Take sips of honey, rosemary, spearmint, propolis, a self-healing mixture like Roman cement, withstands structural drama, generational trauma renovated into a back scratch. Take intermission to lunch in the apiary, sharing talk of making beans and Concord grape memories. Growing up behind their house, grandparents making wine enough to share. I'm having one of my ideas, listening to a loud song performed with pipes and arrows. The best audience is no audience. The performance is just a gathering. Two truths, two flutes, cello again. Thank you. Let's see. I'm going to read another one. Let's see. This one is called What Do Our Signs Say About Us? This contested bike lane reeks of possibilities. Pedestrians attempt the zebra crossing, flaunting red, look both ways, once, twice, off the curb, 1 block closer to wherever. See you later. I don't know who's a local, who had a delivery, a date, or a destination to make room for in their brain. I know what I know, they know what they know, it is what it is, another day in paradise. Let's get a drink at the Lone Palm because it's a Monday night and the only place around here that carves 30-somethings. That's something. I've been around this urban grid for some time now, drenched in the luxuries of paying rent and global conflict grief. I can choose to watch YouTube. My Yoda-toned body selects the pink coconut water in plastic, no sugar added, but it's sweet. I won't witness Earth digest the bottle, but I know it happens off screen. My teeth marks in the cap will indicate a large land mammal held it in its mandible to access the juices generations removed from producing its own food. A millennial KPIing and OKRing civilization forward, trying not to OD on coconut water and dreams. Setting for a dream. Overwatered succulents on the windowsill of an apartment in a developer-built 5/1 sticks its browning leaves to the sun. Far from the desert it wasn't born in, far from the purple backdrop of mountains, the pebbly soil sand, the one gas station for miles, the crow watching the road from a post, all that was left of the fence where the land was marked off for lots. The new homes the billboard promised went belly up in the crisis. There's always hope before crisis. Bubbles are dreams fed by greed. The investors pushed for more. Money was cheap. Sign here and be done. Sleep well, ignoring the tickle in the back of the mind. How is this all possible? How does success rise from the gleaming eye? Like succulents propagated in plastic pots. One plucked from the desert mothers a line of little clippings. They grow, so does the wholesale price. Buy the plants, flip the plants, buy the plant, kill the plant. Move out of that apartment you never really moved into. If you look at the faded flyer for the artisanal farmers market the succulent came from, you can see the high water mark. Now the tourists have gone home and say boxes, boarded up storefronts and for rent signs, waiting for the season to change, waiting for madmen with gleaming eyes to come upon a desert and call it paradise, and call for artists to beautify the derelict ruins, to dupe them into making a valuable container they don't own the deeds for. The seasons keep cycling, the sun and the rain give way to plants of all kinds. Even the harsh desert has its thick petal grows. Can it belong to no one and every being all at once? All right, last one. Do you want yoga and technology or late stage capitalism? All right. Market insights on late-stage capitalism. This is kind of some old shit, but I like it. I create information, actually it's still new shit, because we're still in it. I create information from other information, behind a laptop, wearing a crop top, watching technology mop the floor of the Death Star. I make porters buried alive look like terracotta horses buried for a dead emperor. Information, it isn't air, it has a shape. From the curl of the initial question to the transmission waves, pinstriped by satellites, from skyscraper to grassy glade. Capital traps capital for more capital, working work worthy of the highest pay. We build our gardens, our gates, for baby mice the size of pink erasers who don't know to maze. Press send, do it again, emails on a chain. Are you on the chain, on-chain, blockchain, a generator of generational wealth in stealth mode? A stealth startup, you could be working on anything, and people will nod and go, ah. That pause. A wealth gap leaves a commodious and airy space between the rich and the poor, a wrath gap between the sacred and the scorched. Exhausted by half-chewed knowledge, I retreat inside my LLC shell company that holds me when I need to duck behind the corporate veil.
Right, good evening, good evening. I am the publisher behind Dark Art Press that published Wright's Snake Oil. Beautiful novella, really honored to publish it. I've been publishing with Dark Art Press for the past couple of years. It's been a small press that I've been slowly building projects with. I've been publishing myself for about 15 years in small press magazines, zines, bathroom walls, that kind of thing. Anyway, I'm going to read a few poems of my own. I'm going to read a poem here from Too Young to Know, which is my first collection of poems, which is also on sale over there. Let's see. Her dead husband's ashes. She had told me about them, where she stored them, and I was perfectly fine with having him around. She had been gone for several days before I finally opened the drawer and pulled out the cardboard box that I opened, and there he was, a pile of gray sand I had heard so much about in her colorful stories that I got nervous as I said hello and introduced myself. I was lonely, and he completely understood. He asked me for something to drink, so I got us some beers. We laughed and talked until sunrise. I got emotional about her, and he cheered me up by letting me sort through him in search of his remaining teeth. All was going well with us bachelors until the day the Neptune Society came and took him away to be scattered like all the other people I get too close to.
Actually, went by the Neptune Society on Grand Avenue opened 3 days ago, and I'm like, who is this? I called him on the phone, and they didn't call me back.
Oh, boy.
I'm not ready for you.
No. Okay, let's see. I think I'll read one more from here. Crayons for dessert. John commands everyone's attention when he sings a Smokey Robinson tune. A long strand of drool hanging from his outstretched, quivering bottom lip that our mental health counselor wipes off with the torn first page of a brochure on sexually transmitted diseases. Just as Boys to Men album to our post-lunchtime creative expressions group, forms a gun with his hand and pretends to shoot himself, which ignites a giggle fit in the schizophrenic waiting room champion next to me. That sounds like 100 Pillsbury doughboys trapped inside of a blender. The hypnotic leather jowls of an old, washed-up beauty queen graze the cardboard ruins of a cup of noodle soup box that she vandalizes with her sketch notes of our bi-weekly meeting. A crayon the color of an artificial Velveeta sunrise that she slowly begins to munch on. Our counselor oblivious as she whispers into the electric razor buzzsaw of her newest cell phone. Side effects of our medications. Our mouths open wide so they could be sure we didn't cheat our pills. Sitting at the dining room table with somebody else's granny. She has a stoic, quiet judgment in the awkward, nervous face of my many wrongs during her pre-holiday supper interrogation. Graham's thick Massachusetts accent makes me feel miscast in a Norman Rockwell brushstroke, a Christmas tree towering above us, as she orders me not to curse during the Christian holiday, like I'm a juvenile delinquent. Her lecture over my smoking habit leads me to stare into the eyes of an animatronic teddy bear, while it plays a toy saxophone in the background. The pot brownie her granddaughter gave me has kicked in. I'm paranoid that Graham can My girlfriend kissed Mr. Rogers. He was the first man I trusted and loved in the wake of my father's disappearance from my life. He wore a cardigan I envied. He was a smooth operator who never let me down, and her loving spirit complemented his, as they killed everyone with the same relentless kindness that killed them both. She embraced the gentle public television star on stage after he spoke at her graduation. And she whispered lusty poetry into his ear before she surprised him with a kiss. They were joined together in a force field of an electric goodness so potent they could have used it to save the world. She left me for me, who she followed into a cosmic neighborhood, in a great beyond, where they earned an impossible sainthood. The compassionate lip lock she initiated years ago still haunts my wildest daydreams, where I can hear her whisper, "Won't you be mine?" Well, I think I'm finished for now. I think I'm going to introduce my good friend Dan Wright. He's the author of Snake Oil and many other titles next to my titles. Come on up, Dan.
Yes.
Kevin Ridgeway. Nice meeting you guys. Really good. You had to get people in the business.
Is that mic even working now?
I don't think it is right now.
I don't need it.
Is that not working?
I know how to project. I'm a theater kid.
I mean, we can hear you.
Cozy room.
Right. Hello? Hello? Oh boy, there we go.
Back in business.
Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. This has been like one of the coolest events I've ever been a part of, like ever. San Francisco is a special place near and dear to my heart. This city always treats me well, and no matter how bad a mood I am when I get in here, I always wind up in a very chill zen mood, like I'm almost like the best version of myself. So this is a fucking treat. I'm going to be doing basically a poetry sandwich, and the bread is going to be bits of my prose. I didn't expect to have a novel and a novella out this year, but you know, this is what happens when you keep yourself busy during COVID. The first thing I'll be reading is the first chapter of my first novel, Call Center, which is over there, and then we're going to be getting into a bunch of poetry. And the last thing I'll be reading is a chapter from Snake Oil. So this is chapter 1 from Call Center. It began out of desperation. I was working a job that felt like high school with a paycheck with constant gossip and backhanded politics. In a word, retail. And that particular brand of bullshit was not worth what little money they paid us. At the time, I was living in an apartment with 2 roommates in the suburb of St. Louis. It was nice enough. Living with 2 roommates wasn't ideal, but they were better than any other roommates I ever had, primarily because they paid their share of the rent on time. Both worked in IT and could pick up the financial slack whenever my work didn't schedule me a lot, although I did tend to make those hours up by filling in for people. There always seemed to be a nasty cold come the weekend, and at least a third of the staff would call out sick. One day, an old friend I hadn't seen since high school walked into the store. After catching up on our lives, he mentioned he worked in a call center. "What's that like?" I asked. "It's cool. I make decent money and don't have to deal with people face to face." I was sold. Until then, I wouldn't have tried to get a job like that. My father told me early and often that I was never good enough to wear a white collar, which is a shitty thing to say to a kid, especially by a parent. I wanted to know what it was like to make decent money at a job for once. I didn't care about the fine print. I just wanted to know the feeling of paying my bills and having enough money left over to not sweat the following week. Now, some may say that money doesn't solve everything. Well, in my case, yes, it does. My problem is not with myself, flaws and all. I'm content with who I am. This isn't a philosophical or psychological matter. This is plain economics. The problem is out there. Out there wants a shit ton of money from me when it hardly pays me for a job I give way too much of myself towards. So yes, in fact, money would solve just about every fucking problem I have. The next day I had off, I summoned up enough bucks to make my way out to a place called Intertech. It was in a more well-to-do part of St. Louis known as Creve Coeur. As the bus made its way to my destination, I noticed the change in scenery, as abandoned storefronts gave way to tinted windows and marble walls. As I passed them by on the bus, I felt like a fraud, a peasant of some low-life kingdom trying to pass himself off as a prince. When I got off the bus, I saw the building that Intertech was in. It was an all-brick building with tinted windows that had no identity whatsoever. I watched as important-looking men and women came in and out talking about flights to Pittsburgh and what someone said in a meeting that just had everybody in stitches. By comparison, I dressed like a country bumpkin. And I honestly wondered if I had put on a pair of glasses, I'd see them all as the yuppie aliens. The agent I was assigned to was a man named Jeremy. He's 6'2" and had spiky, professional-looking blonde hair and perfect teeth. He spoke in a sort of surfer businessman tone of voice, as though to convey, "I'm a serious businessman, but I know how to party at a hotel bar during happy hour." Giggity, 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 giggity. My meeting with him lasted no more than 10 minutes, and I left feeling significant yet unimportant. Something was off when I left his office, and I wondered, well, maybe that's what your soul feels like. We're at the next bus, and as I sat down, I got a call on my cell. It was Jeremy. He had found me a job. Damn, I thought, that was fast. I would start at $17.50 an hour, 40 hours a week. and that was just during training. When I got home, my job called to see if I could come in. 3 people had called out sick who I knew were at a party they had been bragging about all week, even in front of management. I quit. Thank you. So there was, well, goddamn. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. There was a 5th person I wanted to be at this reading, but unfortunately they can't be here on account of stubbornly staying dead. A gentleman, a great poet, who was one of the first poets that I ever truly looked up to, a man I was lucky enough to meet in my lifetime, named Neely Tchaikovsky. I was, when I graduated high school, my high school English teacher, who was basically the first mentor I ever had, gave me a copy of Whitman's Wild Children. And it was because of that that I actually felt not insane anymore. I got to meet him, and I wanted to reach out to him the last time I was in San Francisco, but I'll explain why in this poem. And since Neely, in his last couple books, a lot of his poems started with Elegy for such and such, I decided to call this Elegy for Neely. While at work one day, I heard my phone ringing. I looked down and saw Neely Tchaikovsky was calling me. I had been fortunate enough to meet him over the summer. I had sent him a message on Facebook, letting him know how much of an influence he had been. He responded, "Send poems."
Aww.
And I was too scared to. A few days later, he wrote, "Send poems now." So I did. He said he liked them, and he could have knocked me over with a feather after I read that. When I went out to San Francisco that summer, I had asked him if he would like to get coffee and hang out. He responded that he would love to, but rather than going out, he invited me over to his house. We drank coffee and talked poetry. I let him know how much his work meant to me, how his book, Whitman's Wild Children, had sent me on my path as a writer and had helped me find my tribe. The day was great, and I even got to sit in on him teaching a class over Zoom. But I never expected to get a call from him months later. When I answered, he asked, "Is this Ned?" "No, this is Dan." "Who?" "Dan." "Oh, hey, man, how's it going?" We talked for 20 minutes about our favorite poets and the craft of poetry. He sounded excited when I mentioned Jack Hirschman and Bob Kaufman. The last thing he said before we hung up was, "Keep up the good work, man. Hope to see you out here again." I thought about reaching out the next time I was in San Francisco. But despite everything, my damn imposter syndrome got the best of me. By the time I realized how silly that was, it was too late. All that's left to say is how grateful I am that a poet I looked up to for so long, who had known some of the greatest poetic minds of a generation, showed me a kindness that even as an adult I'm not used to, when by all rights he didn't have to. So in closing, thank you, Neely. So another mentor of mine is actually in the crowd this evening, a gentleman by the name of Bill Chrisman, who I had dedicated my first book to. I worked for Bill at a place called Beatnik Bob's out in St. Louis, which is basically this this really cool bar that's a tribute to an area of St. Louis that was kind of the beatnik hub, or the beat hub called Gaslight Square. And if you were curious about it, look it up. There was such cool history about it. This next poem is actually, so Bill also runs a place called Joe's Cafe, which is like one of the coolest little hidden gems in St. Louis. It's only open one day a week, but they have some of the coolest jazz and world music you can find. During the intermission, they have poets read, and I've had the pleasure of being there many times. And this piece is about an evening at Joe's Cafe, just through my own demented eye. And it's called Swunk in the Smoker's Lung. The New Jerusalem is irreverence, with big boy ready to serve you on high holy days. Let mad dogs lie at the shrine of shameless hucksterism. Red light district teases the paying customers as it dances to hollow body coolness. Green teeth smoked away as aliens wait to invade, with invites to Club 69 next to the bathrooms. Social media shills shrooms. Apathetic husbands wonder where it all went wrong. Change is too much, but lost in this shuffle. It's much easier to go back when it's much easier to go back to what your mind blows. High roller strides across the room with wine moms and Jack Daniel dads merengue towards their seats. Air smells like foreboding rain. Fountainheads of human existence search for art and imagination. Dance burlesque to rave reviews. Music rests in the walls for rats to find redemption. When you relive different versions of yourself, you can see the path before you and you know where to go next. And in the end, those who are salt and pepper and punk as fuck know the hard truth of this world, that you either die a punk or live long enough to see yourself work in a microbrew. Thank you. So this next poem is going to be actually my next full-length collection called The Unheard Music. And it's after just a drunken night, which a lot of my poems tend to be about. And it's called Encouraging My Friend's Hatred of Morrissey. Over a couple of beers, my friend and I talked about how much we used to love the Smiths, but now would not touch Morrissey for as far as we could throw his sorry vegan ass. I want to be the shoe that hit George W. Bush in the face, except be the pork steak that hits Morrissey in the fucking face, because fuck Morrissey, my friend said as he finished off another Miller High Life. We talked of Johnny Marr being the only saving grace of the band, how the demands of Morrissey forced Marr to be a makeshift manager, and as no other manager could deal with Morrissey's diva demands, and how that led, amongst other things, to Johnny Marr quitting the band, and how Morrissey still resents Marr so much he has said he won't perform in the state of Oregon simply because of a rumor that Johnny Marr lives in Portland. We talked of Morrissey's high demands whenever he came to a venue, how there must be a team to cater to his every whim, and how, as talented as his backing band may be, none of them can still figure out how to properly do the intro to this charming man. And that was all before we talked about his politics. Thank you. So this one's a very short one, and this got into a zine called Book of Matches, and it is entitled Rimbaud's Vertebrae, or How the Hipster Was Born. Rimbaud decided to surgically remove a piece of his vertebrae so he could suck his own dick.
Nice.
But he kept that piece of himself in a jar, and he named it Paul Verlaine, because it was the only reason he was ever able to get off. Thank you. So these next three are from a split I did with a great writer named Gabriel Retard, which Kevin and myself are going to be doing a split with. Should be out within the next month or so. We decided to write about that great all-American art form known as professional wrestling. And these are three, and it's called Tonight's Main Event, and these three are from it, and the first one's called Guilty Pleasure. It's easier to bleed for your money than it is to sing for your supper. Even those who never watched know the hustles of the traveling circus days. It's hard to impress the highbrows when your sister is burlesque and your friends are jazz and comic books, with all of you starting in the steerage of the American dream. Like all good art forms, we embrace it as much as we are embarrassed by it. When you understand, no excuse is necessary. When you don't want to understand, no excuse will do. Thank you. And yeah, just got a couple more, and then I'll close out with a chapter from Snake Oil. This is called 11 Hours to Oklahoma City. After entertaining a sold-out crowd for 3 to 5 hours, a group of 30 to 40 men and women in the dead of night, bruised, bloody, and beaten, have to haul ass from New Orleans back to Oklahoma City for live television the next day, before starting the trek all over again from Oklahoma City to New Orleans throughout the week to haul ass back for television the next day. A passion never promised to make any sense. Thank you.
Yes.
And This one is supposedly a true story. I've heard like 5 different versions of the story, and I put it in poetic form. It's called A Night with Mad Dog Vashon. Superhuman strength and superhuman stupidity lay at the feet of a dozen bottles. We all go off the rails sometimes, and we all feel like shit the day after with a night's worth of regrets. But until you drink a pint of whiskey before entertaining a crowd for 20 minutes, down 2 Dexedrine with an entire cooler of beer in 30 minutes time, empty 3 full bottles of red wine to calm your nerves before meeting your girlfriend's parents for the first time, drink another full bottle of whiskey after embarrassing yourself in front of your girlfriend and her parents, and then smoked a joint to even out because you drank too much, and then took a Quaalude to calm down because the joint didn't hit like you thought it would before getting on a plane to go home, and until you have opened the door of said plane 10,000 feet in the air, throwing your friend's gym bag over the plane. I tell you, it's so peaceful up here, I feel like I'm flying. And until you have fought 6 of your best friends, all of whom are in much better shape than you'll ever be, after that plane had to make an emergency landing, and at least 7 cops, and a few men from the local psych ward ready to put you in a straitjacket, screaming at everyone as the cops ask your friends if they want to press charges. I swear it, I'll take you all to hell with me. And your friends instead deciding to go to a local hardware store, buy a shit ton of duct tape, and tape your ass to the seat before the plane takes off again, leaving you tied up after the plane lands for the pilots to deal with you. Until you've had a night like that, don't beat yourself up too bad. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming out. This has been a night just beyond words. This is the last thing I'll be reading. This is chapter 2 of Snake Oil. We have books over there for sale. Please buy them. We need to be kept in cornflakes and ramen noodles, the same as musicians. This is chapter 2 of Snake Oil. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll be sure to hang out and be social after. Brianna Miller woke up the next day with a mild hangover. She popped 4 ibuprofen and poured herself a bowl of cereal. Brianna turned on the television, accessed YouTube from the TV, and searched for some videos about true crimes to watch. Before the video, an advertisement started with a face she had recognized on a billboard from the drive home the day before. Hello, I'm Pastor Jerry Abbott. Do you know someone who is blind, deaf, have irritable bowel syndrome, a fatal disease, missing a limb, or just plain stone cold dead? Then you are welcome to bring the person you know who may suffer from these ailments to our miracle services. That's right, we here at the Hillville Miracle Church can cure the ailments that God has given you as a test that you may be welcomed back into His fold. All it takes is a flat rate of $10,000 per miracle to gain entry into a sermon given to me by our one true Lord and Savior. All you have to do is look at these testimonials from true believers who were once destined for the lake of fire. What the fuck is this, Brianna? The video had a very 1980s aesthetic, as the cutaway brought up a gentleman named Victor Flannery. He had once gone to high school with Brianna's father, and his daughter had been in Brianna's school for 2nd and 3rd grade before they moved to Bottomswell from Bland. Hello, my name is Victor. I was afflicted with lactose intolerance. I could not enjoy the simple pleasures of life. I could not even enjoy ice cream. I cursed God for my plight. And then, one day, like a miracle, a friend invited me to the Hillville Church Miracle Services. I took my life savings and gave it to the Lord, and in return, I have never farted again. Victor's deadpan delivery proved to Brianna why it was a good thing Victor had never become a salesman. The second testimonial was a woman she didn't recognize. My name is Emma. I never thought I would be a mother. I was turning 35, and I thought I had somehow failed the world and the Lord and Jesus Christ by not being a mother. Then, my best friend Ruth Ann told me about Hillville Church Miracle Services. I didn't have much money, but I gave everything I had, and lo and behold, I met a gentleman that night. We have a gorgeous little girl and are as happy as can be. It was well worth the $10,000. The camera panned out to reveal Emma's husband. The husband was an impish-looking man with a bad comb-over. He was trying to smile, but looked like he didn't know how to. Brianna continued to watch, transfixed. So there you have it, said the pastor. For just a small sum of $10,000, we can heal whatever ails you. That's right, just $10,000 for a miracle cure and guaranteed everlasting in the kingdom of heaven. So won't you please join us? We're just off Route 4 between the Hooters and the Gun Nuts shooting range. See you then, and God bless. As the proper video started, Brianna was almost in a trance, focused on the ad she just saw, her mouth agape. She paused the video about a killer in Tuscaloosa to just take in everything she had seen. Brianna began to laugh harder than she ever had in a while, almost like a mental patient, only to shout as loud as she could, "What in the actual fuck?" as her mother came down in a robe, admonishing her daughter. Brianna Taylor language. Later that evening, her cousin Kelsey and her Uncle Ron came by for a family meal. Brianna loved her Uncle Ron, but she tried to keep a blind eye to the conspiracy theories he held as truth. It had become more difficult in the past half dozen years. It didn't take long before the two of them began arguing over a matter that, to Brianna's mind, shouldn't have even been an issue for debate. "Uncle Ron, I don't think you're supposed to swallow apple cider vinegar and bleach. That will kill you." "Not a lot of bleach," said Ron. "Just a splash, a tear or whatever inside you." "Yeah, because even a splash will eat away your insides," said Brianna. "Even apple cider vinegar eats away your tooth enamel." "Says who?" said Ron. "Just about every fucking credible medical expert and scientist," replied Brianna. "Shit, those assholes don't know what they're talking about," said Ron. "Dad, I'm going to have to side with Brianna on this one," said Kelsey. Brianna's parents, Charlie and Mary, sided with Brianna and Kelsey, but said nothing, only smiling while they ate. "All right," said Ron, "but when you all are dealing with your ailments, and you're wondering why I'm fit as a fiddle, I'm just saying. Not saying, but I'm just saying." Without any decent segue, Brianna brought up a commercial she had saw earlier in the day. "So, I saw this weird commercial today. Do any of you know anything about Hillville Church?" "Pastor Abbott?" Ron said, excited. "Yeah," said Brianna, disconcerted. "Pastor Abbott's a good man. I'm in his miracle service." "Uncle Ron," said Brianna, "you pay that man $10,000? "Ron," said Mary, Brianna's mother. "Did you really do that?" asked Charlie, her father. "Yes," said Ron, "and I think it's worth it." "Why did you feel you had to pay that money?" asked Brianna. "Figured why not? I ain't got nothing that needs fixing in my life, but it's good to know I got a direct line God if I need it." "Ronnie," said Charlie, "I never asked you about your finances, but how much you have left over in your savings?" "Don't worry about that," said Ron. "You all go to his church every Sunday too. You know he's a good man." "Wait, you all go?" said Brianna. "Well, we started going a few months back," said Mary. "Pastor Larry retired and we didn't feel welcome at our old church. Uncle Ron invited us and we saw half the town was already there, so we started going. Pastor Abbott's a nice man, but we ain't in that miracle services because we ain't giving anybody $10,000. "Good," said Brianna. "Why don't you come out tomorrow, Bree?" said Ron. "Like your mama said, he and his wife are good people. You know, Uncle Ron, that actually sounds like a good idea," said Brianna. Kelsey raised an eyebrow towards her cousin. Charlie and Mary were pleasantly surprised, and the family finished their meal together in peace. After dinner, Kelsey took her cousin aside to ask her about agreeing to go to church. "I just want to see what's going on," said Brianna. "Yeah, and I just want your word that you're not going to start shit," said Kelsey. "I'm not going to start shit, but if I see something worth mentioning, I'm going to say something after service to my folks. Just don't. Please, just don't." "What?" Brianna asked her cousin. "Please just talk to me before you talk to your folks or my dad," said Kelsey. Brianna sighed. "Sure. Promise?" "Promise." Kelsey hugged her cousin, and the two went back to the living room to enjoy the rest of the evening with their family. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. This has been one of the cool times of my life. Please buy books. Thank you, and good night.
Yay!